Donald Trump is raging as major tech giants begin shifting operations out of the US and into Canada. Drawn by friendlier policies, lower costs, and global talent hubs, companies are calling Canada the new tech capital of the world. Watch the full video to find out which companies are leaving, why it's happening now, and how this could reshape the global tech landscape.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today,
Right. That phrase, tech giants, it immediately conjures up images of massive economic power, right? Innovation, global influence. So when the source says they're leaving the U.S., it suggests a pretty fundamental rethink is happening, a reevaluation for the world's top tech players.
Can we talk a bit more about that term tech giants? What kind of economic weight are we actually talking about here? Just to ground this a bit.
Oh, it's staggering, really. We're talking about entities whose market caps, their total value, often dwarf the GDP of many countries. Think about the top 5, maybe 10 tech companies. Their combined value is often in the trillions of dollars. That's not just money, it's immense economic leverage on a global scale.
Trillions, okay.
Yeah, and they're huge employers too.
Yeah.
Not just directly, with hundreds of thousands of employees worldwide, often in very high-skilled, high-paying jobs, but also indirectly. Think about the ecosystems they create, developers, suppliers, service providers, all relying on these giants. So the job impact is massive.
Right, it's not just the coders, it's the whole network.
Exactly. And then there's R&D, research and development. These companies pour billions, sometimes tens of billions each year, into innovation. They're driving breakthroughs in AI, cloud computing, biotech, you name it. They generate vast amounts of intellectual property patents, algorithms, the core stuff that fuels future growth.
So if these giants are leaving, it's not just about losing some offices, it's potentially losing that engine of future innovation.
That's precisely the implication. It suggests a potential drain on that innovative capacity, that intellectual property generation. Yeah. It raises the question, where will the next big breakthroughs happen if these key players shift their focus?
Okay, that sets the scale. But the source says they're leaving. What does leaving actually look like for a company this enormous? It feels vague.
It is vague in the source, and that's important. Leaving isn't usually like flipping a switch for these global entities. It's a spectrum. At one extreme, it could mean relocating the entire corporate headquarters. That's the most dramatic, symbolic move. Big headlines, loss of prestige for the original location, loss of top exec jobs, tax revenue.
Right, the full move.
But it could be more subtle. Maybe they shift their core R&D labs. The headquarters might stay, but the intellectual powerhouse, the place where the next big thing is being invented, moves.
So the brains move even if the nameplate stays.
Exactly. And that, long-term, could be even more significant for a country's competitive edge. You lose the clustering of top talent, the cutting-edge research. Or it could be shifting advanced manufacturing. Think specialized chip fabrication, complex hardware assembly. That affects different kinds of jobs, supply chains.
Okay.
Or maybe leaving is just a shift in focus. Less new investment in the U.S., scaling back hiring here, prioritizing growth in other regions. It's less dramatic visually, but it signals a strategic pivot away.
So a whole range of possibilities packed into that one word, leaving.
Precisely. And each has different degrees of impact on jobs, the economy, innovation.
And what does this imply for the U.S.? For decades, it's been seen as the place for tech. This claim challenges that head-on. It absolutely does. It forces a reevaluation of that long-held status. Silicon Valley is the default center of the tech universe. If these giants, the very symbols of that dominance, are perceived to be leaving, it immediately suggests maybe the U.S. is losing its competitive edge.
Losing the magic formula.
Potentially. Or maybe the formula is changing. It raises questions about whether the conditions that made the U.S. so attractive, talent, capital, regulation, universities, are shifting. Is the magnet effect weakening? Are other places becoming more attractive, developing a stronger pull for that top-tier talent and venture capital? It's not just about losing companies. It's about potentially eroding that whole ecosystem. The universities, the VCs, the skilled workforce. That ecosystem is what created the U.S. tech powerhouse status. A decline there could really reshape things globally.
So let's bring this down to the listener. Why should you care if some giant tech companies shift operations? How does it actually connect to your life?
Well, it connects in several ways. First, jobs. Directly, if you work in tech or a related field. Fewer opportunities here if the growth shifts elsewhere. But also indirectly. These companies contribute massively to the economy, taxes that fund public services like schools, roads, healthcare. Their employees spend money locally. If they leave, it can slow down economic growth, impact tax revenue.
Okay, so jobs and the broader economy, what else?
Innovation. If the leading edge moves, the next big thing, maybe a breakthrough in medicine powered by AI, or the next leap in communication tech might be developed elsewhere. That could mean you get access to new products or services later, or maybe the tech develops in ways less tailored to your market.
And you mentioned reputation before.
Yeah, there's national pride, but also practical stuff. A reputation as an innovation leader attracts more investment, more skilled immigrants. If that perception shifts, it can affect the country's standing, its attractiveness for talent and capital. It's all interconnected.
Right. It's definitely not just some abstract corporate chess game.
Not at all. It has tangible ripple effects.
Okay, now let's get to the really juicy part of this source. It says Trump is furious. Not concerned, not disappointed. Furious. That's a really intense word choice. What does that tell us?
It tells us a lot about the perceived severity of the situation. From, let's say, a high-level political viewpoint represented in the source, fury isn't just anger. It's intense, maybe suggesting alarm, a sense of being wronged or seeing a major threat. It implies this isn't just a minor economic blip. It's seen as something urgent, critical, potentially damaging to national interests. The emotion itself is a signal how serious this is perceived to be.
So, analyzing that word fury, what layers are there? Economic alarm seems obvious.
Definitely economic alarm. Seeing these pillars of the economy potentially leaving would naturally trigger that. It's about jobs, investment, future prosperity, but maybe also wounded national pride. The U.S. has long prided itself on tech leadership. The idea of giants leaving could feel like a direct blow to that status, that identity.
A symbolic hit.
Could be. And maybe a perceived threat to strategic advantage. Tech leadership is linked to geopolitical power, national security in some ways. If that's shifting, it could be seen as weakening the nation's position.
And just the sheer intensity suggests urgency.
Yes, urgency and criticality. It frames the issue as a crisis demanding attention, possibly action, even if the source doesn't say what action. It elevates the whole thing.
So politically, what does expressing fury achieve? It can't just be venting, right? There's usually a strategy.
Oh, absolutely. Expressing fury, especially from a leader, is often a powerful political signal. It can, sort of paradoxically, be a way to acknowledge a problem exists and it's serious without getting bogged down in details initially. It signals, I recognize this is bad.
Sets the stage.
Exactly. It also works to galvanize public opinion. Frame the issue in stark emotional terms. Rally support, focus attention, maybe pressure the companies involved or other parts of government. It shapes the narrative very effectively.
So it's a messaging tool.
A very potent one. And it signals that this issue is now top priority. It's not just some background economic noise, it's front and center. It might even implicitly prepare the ground for future, potentially more drastic, policy responses, whatever those might be.
Even if our source doesn't mention specific policies, how does this strong emotional reaction, this fury, affect the conversation, the public discourse around tech?
It can shift it significantly. The rhetoric might become much more nationalistic, for example. Keep tech jobs here, protect our innovation. The language used to describe the companies or the act of leaving could become more charged, even adversarial.
Creates an us versus them vibe.
Potentially, yeah. It can also signal a change in the government's overall posture towards the tech industry, maybe moving from hands-off to more interventionist, or at least signaling a willingness to intervene.
So even without new rules, the tone itself matters.
Absolutely. That tone creates uncertainty, pressure. Companies might start thinking, okay, the political winds are shifting. Maybe we need to adjust our plans or our messaging. It changes the atmosphere, suggesting the status quo might not hold.
Let's connect this back to the listener again. How does a leader's fury over economic shifts like this actually filter down and impact you? It seems abstract.
It's less abstract than you might think. First, public perception. Hearing that level of alarm can make people anxious about their own job security, the economy's stability, the country's future. It can shape how you feel about the economy, maybe even how you view the tech companies involved.
Creates a mood.
Yeah, a mood of uncertainty, perhaps. And that can directly impact investor confidence. Markets hate uncertainty, political fury, potential instability. The hint of government action that can make investors nervous.
So less investment.
Could be. Less investment in the domestic tech sector, maybe capital flowing elsewhere. And that can slow down innovation, job creation, even affect stock prices. If you have a 401k or other investments, that can hit your bottom line directly.
Okay. The investment angle is very direct.
It is. And finally, it affects the overall business climate. Businesses need some level of predictability. If the relationship between government and a key industry like tech becomes highly charged, emotional, potentially adversarial. Other companies, not just tech, might pause their own investment plans, reconsider expansion. It can make the whole environment feel less stable, less attractive for long-term growth. And a less dynamic business climate ultimately affects the products, services, and jobs available to you.
So the emotion itself becomes an economic factor.
In a way, yes. It signals risk and potential change.
Now, the source gets really specific. It doesn't just say giants, it names one, Microsoft.
How significant is it that Microsoft specifically is mentioned?
It's hugely significant. It takes the conversation from a general, potentially abstract claim about giants and makes it incredibly concrete and tangible.
Right, everyone knows Microsoft.
Exactly. Microsoft isn't just a tech giant. It's arguably one of the foundational pillars of the entire modern digital world. Decades of history, from PC operating systems, Windows, Office.
Right. To the enterprise software that runs so many businesses, to Azure cloud services, which are fundamental infrastructure now, to AI, gaming. Their footprint is just immense. Global reach touching billions of people.
So mentioning them isn't like naming some niche player.
Not at all. If a company with that scale, that history, that deep integration into the fabric of the economy is named as leaving, it suggests something far more profound is happening. It implies the pressures or attractions are strong enough to affect even the most established players.
It makes the claim feel much more real, much heavier.
Absolutely. It gives the abstract idea of giants leaving, a specific, powerful face. It suggests this isn't just a fringe phenomenon, it involves the very core of the industry.
What about the symbolic weight? If Microsoft is perceived to be making a move, what message does that send out?
The symbolic weight is enormous. Microsoft is seen as a bellwether. Other companies, investors, governments, they all watch what Microsoft does very closely.
Like a canary in the coal mine.
In a way, yes, but a massive, hugely influential canary. If they're seen to be shifting significantly, it sends a powerful signal. Maybe the underlying conditions are fundamentally changing. It could prompt other companies, big and small, to say, if Microsoft thinks this is necessary or advantageous, maybe we should reconsider our own position. It could trigger a domino effect. It also signals a potential shift in where the smart money thinks the future lies. Investors look for signals. A move by Microsoft could suggest the long-term growth prospects or stability are perceived as better elsewhere, potentially redirecting significant capital flows globally.
So it's a signal about the overall environment, not just about Microsoft itself.
Precisely. It lends credibility to the idea that there's a broader trend, that the factors driving tech location decisions are undergoing a major transformation. It becomes a symbol of that potential shift.
And how does naming Microsoft specifically make the claim hit home harder for you listening? Why is that specificity so potent?
Because it connects directly to your daily experience. Like we said, almost everyone interacts with Microsoft products or services constantly. Windows, Office, Teams, Xbox, Azure powering websites you visit.
Yeah, it's unavoidable, really.
Right. So when you hear Microsoft leaving, you're not thinking about some abstract corporation. You're thinking about the tools you rely on. It makes the potential impact feel much more immediate and personal.
Less theoretical.
Much less. It grounds the big, sweeping claim in something familiar and tangible. It also bypasses any ambiguity about the scale we're talking about. You hear Microsoft, you know it's a behemoth. It lends a certain gravity and, within the context of the source, a kind of perceived credibility to the claim. It makes you sit up and pay attention.
Okay, so given that direct connection, how could a potential shift by Microsoft actually affect your daily digital life, or maybe even your career path? What's the relevance for you?
Well, think about innovation. Microsoft is at the forefront of so many areas: AI, cloud infrastructure, cybersecurity. If their R&D focus shifts geographically, the next wave of features in the software you use, or improvements in cloud security, might originate primarily from that new location. Maybe rollouts happen there first, or development priorities subtly shift based on where the core teams are.
So the tech itself could change, or how quickly we get it?
Potentially, yes. And competition. Microsoft is a huge force in the market. If they significantly change their global footprint, it could alter the competitive landscape. Maybe empower new competitors in their new home or change pricing dynamics. That affects the choices and costs you face as a consumer or business user.
Okay.
And think about skills and careers. If a major player like Microsoft significantly ramps up operations elsewhere, that region becomes a hotspot for certain tech jobs. It could influence where people seek education or employment in tech, shifting talent flows globally. The skills that are in demand might shift based on where the big players are investing most heavily.
So the ecosystem impact is huge.
Absolutely. The standards they set, the platforms they build, Changes in their strategy ripple outwards and affect the tools you use, the security of your data, the opportunities available in countless ways. That's why the specific mention is so relevant.
Okay, so the source claims these giants are leaving the U.S., and it points to Microsoft. Then it tells us where they're supposedly going. Canada is now the new center of the world.
Okay.
That is quite a statement. Not just a center, but the new center.
It's incredibly bold, possibly the most audacious claim in the whole snippet. It implies a truly massive shift in global economic and innovative power, not just that Canada is doing well in tech, but that it has somehow eclipsed everywhere else to become the premier, undisputed global hub.
What does center of the world even mean in a tech context? What would that look like?
It implies a unique concentration of everything needed for tech leadership. Think, a critical mass of top-tier global talent flocking there, unmatched access to venture capital and investment, world-leading research institutions tightly linked with industry, cutting-edge digital and physical infrastructure.
The whole package.
The whole package, and then some. It suggests it's the place where the most important breakthroughs are happening, where the most influential companies are headquartered or have their main R&D, where global trends are set. It implies a magnetic pull, drawing in the best and brightest from everywhere. It suggests global leadership, not just regional strength.
So, based only on that claim in the source, what qualities must Canada possess to achieve that status? What's implied?
Well, the claim itself implies several things must be true about Canada in this narrative. First, an exceptionally welcoming and stable business environment, predictable regulations, maybe favorable tax structures for tech, political stability.
Makes sense. A safe bet for huge investments.
Exactly. Second, it implies phenomenal access to skilled talent, either a huge domestic pool generated by great universities or incredibly effective immigration policies drawing top tech minds from around the world, or both. You can't be the center without the people.
Right. Talent is key.
Third, it suggests competitive operational costs, maybe lower costs for labor, real estate, energy compared to other hubs. Efficiency matters at the scale these giants operate.
Okay. Environment, talent, costs.
And fourth, probably a highly supportive and forward-thinking regulatory framework, policies that actively encourage innovation in areas like AI, data privacy, intellectual property, a government that understands and partners with the tech sector.
So the claim paints a picture of Canada as this perfect storm of positive conditions for tech.
That's the strong implication, yes.
Yeah.
All derived just from interpreting that phrase, new center of the world.
And it's a big if based on this snippet, but if Canada did become this new center, what would the ripple effects be globally, geopolitically, economically?
Oh, the repercussions would be monumental, transformative.
Okay.
Geopolitically, it would dramatically elevate Canada's international influence. Tech leadership equals power today. Canada would have more sway in global affairs, standard setting, diplomacy.
A new major power player emerges.
Absolutely. Economically, it would trigger a massive redirection of global investment. Venture capital, corporate investment would flood into Canada, fueling an economic boom there. It would likely strengthen the Canadian dollar significantly.
And conversely, pull investment from elsewhere.
That's the strong implication. Regions perceived as losing their edge, like the U.S. in this narrative, could see investment decline. It would reshape global capital flows.
And the tech itself.
The actual technological advancements would increasingly have a Canadian origin or flavor. It would influence global markets, industry trends. Where the top talent gathers is where the future is often built. It could change where the next Googles or Microsofts are founded, where the key patents are held, where the high-value jobs are concentrated. It would fundamentally alter global competition and collaboration.
You mentioned the contrast before. How does claiming Canada is the new center implicitly play against the idea of tech giants leaving the U.S.? It feels like a direct comparison.
It absolutely functions as a direct contrast. Placing those two ideas together, U.S. losing giants, Canada becoming the center, strongly implies a transfer of vitality, of leadership, of opportunity.
Like one is causing the other.
The source strongly implies that connection. It suggests the very factors pushing companies out of the U.S. are mirrored by attractive factors pulling them into Canada. It sets up this narrative of decline in one place and simultaneous ascendance in another.
A zero-sum game, almost.
The framing leans that way, yeah. Or at least a significant redistribution of innovative power and economic dynamism. It suggests the U.S. might be losing its grip on the key ingredients for tech success: talent, capital, favorable environment, while Canada is mastering them.
So the vitality, the energy, the growth is moving north.
That's the clear narrative presented. The skilled workers follow the jobs, the investment follows the opportunity. It paints a picture of a fundamental rebalancing, where the center of gravity for global tech innovation is shifting dramatically.
Okay, last time connecting this back. If Canada were to become this new global tech hub, what does that really mean for you, the listener, in your day-to-day life or career?
It would mean quite a lot, potentially. In terms of innovation, like we touched on, the technologies that shape your future might increasingly come from Canada. AI advancements, new software platforms, biotech breakthroughs, their origin influences how they develop and how quickly you access them.
So maybe faster access if you're close to Canada, slower if you're elsewhere.
Could be. Development priorities might shift. Products might be tailored more for the markets closest to the new center. For careers, it's huge. If Canada becomes the undisputed hotspot, it pulls in talent globally. It means the best tech jobs, the cutting-edge projects might be concentrated there. That influences where you might look for education. For work, what skills become most valuable internationally?
Shifts the whole map for tech careers.
Definitely. And finally, geopolitics. A Canada elevated to this status would have a different kind of global influence. New partnerships, different trade dynamics. The global order subtly shifts when technological leadership moves. That impacts international relations, stability, economic opportunities worldwide, the broader context you live in.
So a potentially massive impact on innovation, access, careers, and even global affairs.
If that claim holds true, yes, it would reshape the landscape.
Okay. So let's try and wrap this up. We've taken this very short, but wow, very potent source, Trump's fury, tech giants exit to Canada.
Right.
We've dug into the alarm coded in Trump's fury. We've unpacked the sheer weight of tech giants are leaving the U.S. We looked at why naming Microsoft specifically is so powerful, and we wrestled with that huge claim, Canada is now the new center of the world.
Yeah, and this deep dive really underscores how just a few words, chosen carefully, can signal enormous potential shifts. Shifts in economic power, in who leads in technology globally. It really pushes us, I think, to look beyond the surface headlines and consider the deeper implications. Are these claims reflecting a real trend, or are they more like a powerful declaration trying to shape a trend? Either way, the implications are profound.
It definitely leaves us with a lot to chew on. And for you, listening, maybe the final thought is this. If this perceived shift is happening, if tech giants moving, possibly driven by political reactions, really does signal a new global center of gravity for tech, how does that fundamentally change your world? From the jobs available to the tech you rely on every single day to the way nations compete and cooperate. Where will the future of technology be forged, and what does that mean for all of us? Something to think about.
Global Mind News. If you found this report helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We bring you the facts, insights, and updates that matter, straight from the source. See you in the next report.